The day I realized my kids are afraid I'll die was the day my daughter took my salt shaker away. Not just took it, confiscated it, like it was alcohol and I was a teenager. "Mum, seriously," she said, fingers closing around the glass. "You can't keep doing this. Your blood pressure was off the charts." This was 3 days after I got out of the hospital. I was standing in my very normal American kitchen in Ohio, pajamas and robe, making scrambled eggs like I'd done 1,000 mornings. I'm 59 years old. I've been a mum for 35 of those years. I have survived toddlers, teenagers, and the death of a spouse. But apparently now I'm not allowed to season my eggs. "Give it back, Anna," I said. "I'm not drinking it. I'm sprinkling it." "Hypertension doesn't care about grammar," she shot back. "You're supposed to be on a low-sodium diet. You almost had a stroke last week, Mum." Behind her, my son Mark leaned against the doorway, arms crossed over his nursing scrubs. He'd come straight from the night shift at the hospital, dark circles under his eyes, smelling faintly of coffee and disinfectant. "She's right," he said quietly. "You scared the hell out of us." I rolled my eyes, trying to lighten the mood. "I scared myself too," I said. "But I'm home. I'm fine. The American healthcare system patched me up, charged my insurance a small fortune, and now we all move on, right?" Neither of them laughed. Anna put the salt shaker in the cabinet above the stove, the one she knows I can't reach without dragging a chair over. I stared at her. "Wow," I said. "Okay, food police." "Blood pressure police," she corrected. "And medication police. And appointment police. And don't you dare skip your follow-up police." Something in her voice made me stop joking. Her eyes were shiny, her lower lip trembled. Behind all that bossiness, there it was. Fear. Not the vague background fear I'd lived with as an American mum raising kids in a world full of school shootings and climate change and TikTok challenges. No. This was the raw animal fear of a kid who almost lost her mother and is now trying to keep death away with a spreadsheet. I saw the same thing in Mark, the way he watched me walk across the kitchen like I might fall at any moment, the way his nurse voice slipped out, calm and clinical, when he said, "You need to sit down, Mum. You shouldn't be standing that long yet." "I'm not 90, I snapped, then winced at my own tone. Underneath my annoyance, something shifted. A realization clicked into place so loudly I could almost hear it. This is exactly how I used to sound. "Did you take your medication? What did you have for lunch? Who are you with? Text me when you get there so I know you're safe." For years, I had controlled my kids' lives in the name of love. Curfews, doctor appointments, vaccinations, diets. Now, after one trip to the ER and a night in a hospital bed with beeping monitors, the roles had flipped. I watched my adult children fuss and hover and correct and lecture. And for the first time, I understood. They're not trying to boss me around. They're trying not to lose me. They're afraid I'll die. If someone told you this was just another emotional family drama story on YouTube, you might roll your eyes and click away. But this is my real American family, my real adult children, my real fear of illness and death. And as I learned, their fear of losing their mom. This is the story of how we went from silent terror and control to actually talking calmly and honestly about sickness, aging, and death without breaking each other's hearts every time. It started in an ambulance on a Tuesday morning in March. Before the ambulance, I would have told you I was pretty healthy for my age. That's how a lot of American mums in their late 50s talk, by the way. We say things like, I'm fine, just tired. It's normal at this age. I'll get it checked. Eventually. I'm Linda, by the way. 59. Widowed. Midwestern. Type A, according to my kids. I raised 2 kids who are now parents and adult children material in every Healing Family Relationships podcast. Anna, 35, social worker, married with 2 little boys and a calendar that looks like a war map. Mark, 32, nurse, single, knows way too much about what can go wrong inside a human body. Their dad, Tom, died when they were in high school. Heart attack. 48 years old. One minute he was complaining about heartburn on the couch. The next minute he was on the floor. By the time the EMTs got there, it was too late. That's important context. Because when you've watched one parent die young of just heartburn, it changes what you see when the other parent says, it's probably nothing. After Tom died, I became intense. I checked that every door was locked twice before bed. I made sure everyone wore seatbelts, even going around the corner. I memorized their friends' parents' phone numbers, the pediatrician's after-hours line, the nearest urgent care. If you asked Anna and Mark what I was like back then, they'd probably say, Mum was always worried, always controlling, always watching. In my head, it was simple. I lost my husband. I was not going to lose my kids. So I hovered. I called if they were 5 minutes late. I monitored what they ate. I dictated bedtimes and SAT prep and how many activities they could drop when they got overwhelmed. Sometimes I did it with a soft voice. Sometimes I did it with a sharp one. I carried fear in my chest like a second heartbeat. When they left for college, that fear didn't go away. It just moved into our family group chat. Anna, text me when you land. Mark, don't drive when you're tired after those night shifts. Years passed. They became exactly what every American parenting book secretly promises: productive, kind, reasonably functional adults. They bought their own groceries. They paid their own bills. They rolled their eyes at me with affection when I reminded them to get their flu shots. Mum, we're fine, they'd say. And I wanted to believe them. What I didn't see that while I was afraid of losing them, they were quietly developing their own fechea, that I would die young too. That one day, like their father, I would grab my chest and collapse in the living room. That they would get a call from a stranger saying, "Are you the emergency contact?" We never talked about that. We talked about soccer practices and college majors and who was hosting Thanksgiving. We did not talk about death until my body forced the issue. It started as heartburn. Of course it did. I was in the break room at the small accounting office where I work, finishing a leftover meatloaf sandwich and scrolling on my phone, when a tightness crept up the center of my chest. I put my hand there and frowned. Too much tomato sauce, I muttered. I drank some water. I walked around. I told myself it would pass. It did not pass. The tightness turned into pressure. My jaw felt weird. My left arm tingled. I remembered the pamphlet from my doctor about women's heart attack symptoms. I remembered Tom on the couch saying, "It's just indigestion." I heard very clearly my own voice in my head. If this was Anna or Mark, you would already be in the car. I'm not proud of what I did next. I went back to my desk. I didn't want to make a fuss. I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want my co-workers to panic. I tried to answer emails. The letters on the screen blurred. Finally, I stood up and walked to my manager's office. "I think I need to go to the hospital," I said. "Something's wrong." She called 911. The EMTs arrived with their equipment and their calm questions. They put stickers on my chest and read numbers off a little machine. "Blood pressure's elevated," one of them said. "Let's be safe and go in." "Can I just drive myself?" I asked. They looked at me like I'd suggested juggling knives. "No, ma'am," the paramedic said. "Let us do our job." As they rolled me out on the stretcher, I did what every American mom does in a crisis. I worried about my kids, not about them losing me, about them overreacting. "Don't call Anna yet," I told the EMT, "or my son. They both work in healthcare. They'll freak out. Let's wait until we know what this is." He gave me a look that was half sympathy, half, "This is not my first rodeo with stubborn parents." "Ma'am," he said gently, "they'd probably rather hear it from you now than from the hospital later." So, in the back of the ambulance, as the siren wailed and the city blurred by, I texted our family group chat. Me. "Hey, don't panic. I'm in an ambulance. Chest pain. They think it's probably nothing, but I'm going to the ER." I hit send, watched the 3 dots appear. "Anna, what do you mean don't panic?" Mark. "Which hospital?" Me. St. Joseph. "Really, I'm okay. It's probably anxiety." Mark. "I'm on my way." Anna. "Me too." Me. "You're both at work. Stay at work." Anna. "Nope." The EMT glanced at my phone and smiled. "Sounds like they love you," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "They do." What I didn't fully grasp yet was, they also live with a constant, low-grade fear that I will vanish. That fear was about to come out into the open. I didn't have a heart attack. That's the important part. After hours in the ER, blood work, an EKG, and a very earnest young doctor explaining cardiac enzymes, the verdict was, not a heart attack, but your blood pressure is too high, your cholesterol is not great, and your heart has some mild changes we'd like to keep an eye on. Translation: you're not dying today, but if you keep living like you're 30, you might not love your 60s. They gave me new medications, a stack of discharge papers, and a referral to a cardiologist. Mark read every line of every instruction like it was exam material. Anna took pictures of the paperwork on her phone, just in case Mom loses it. On the drive home, wedged between them in the back seat of Anna's SUV, I tried to make jokes. "Well," I said, "at least I got a day off work and some handsome nurses out of it." Nobody laughed. "Mum," Anna said, eyes on the road, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "You cannot joke this away." Mark nodded. "You scared me," he said. "When I walked into the ER and saw you on that bed with the monitors, I flashed back to Dad." The car went very quiet. We don't say his name out loud much. I swallowed. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I didn't mean to scare you." "Yeah, well," Anna said, voice shaking. "You did." She pulled into my driveway, put the car in park, and turned to look at me. "I need you to understand something," she said. "You don't get to be casual about this. You don't get to treat almost had a heart issue like a funny story. You're our mum. You're our only parent. If something happens to you—" Her voice broke. Mark finished the sentence for her. We don't have a backup. Hearing your grown children say that out loud is like being punched and hugged at the same time. I reached for their hands. I'm not planning on going anywhere, I said. I'm going to take the medication. I'll see the cardiologist. I'll change your diet, Mark added. Exercise more, Anna said. I sighed. I will try, I said. I promise. But you have to remember I'm still an adult. I still get to make choices. They exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. That night, after they went home, they created a new group chat without me. I found out about it later. They called it Mum's Health Command Center. In that chat, they made a plan. Anna would go through my kitchen and quietly remove the worst offenders. The extra salty canned soups, the bacon, the box of donuts I'd hidden behind the cereal. Mark would manage my medication schedule, set up reminders, and accompany me to the cardiologist. They would both check my calendar and make sure I actually went to my follow-up appointments, not just nodded and smiled at the discharge nurse. In their minds, they were stepping up as responsible American adult children, doing exactly what every caregiving adult child article tells you to do when your aging parent has a health scare. In my mind, as the days went on, it started to feel like I was under house arrest. The first week home, I was grateful. Grateful for the rides to the pharmacy. Grateful for the home-cooked, low-sodium meals Anna brought over. Grateful for Mark's calm explanations of what each pill did. This one's your beta blocker, he'd say. It slows your heart rate a bit and lowers your blood pressure. Take it at the same time each day. This one's your statin. It helps with cholesterol. Side effects are usually mild. I nodded, took notes, set alarms on my phone. I felt like the main character in a healing family relationship story. My kids were showing up. We were going to do this together. By week 3, I was less grateful. Mum, did you walk today? Mum, send me a picture of your dinner plate. Mum, you were supposed to refill this prescription 2 days ago. It was like having 2 tiny, worried nurses living in my phone. One night, Mark came over unannounced after his shift. He opened my pill organizer and frowned. You skipped your noon dose yesterday, he said. I forgot, I replied. I was out with Carol. We went to lunch, and then… You forgot, he repeated. Mom, you can't forget. That's not how heart medication works. I bristled. I've been taking pills since before you were born, I said. I missed 1 dose. 1 dose can matter, he insisted. I see it all the time at the hospital. People don't take their meds, things spiral, and then they're back in the ER saying, I don't know what happened. I am not people, I snapped. I am your mother. He closed the pillbox a little harder than necessary. Exactly, he said. You're my mother. I am not ready to watch you die because you're stubborn about a pill schedule. The word hit me like a slap. Die. We danced around it so often. There it was, thrown in the middle of my kitchen like a grenade. Get out, I said quietly. He blinked. What? Get out, I repeated. You don't get to come into my house and talk to me like I'm one of your non-compliant patients. He stared at me for a long moment, eyes dark. Fine, he said. Call me when you decide whether you want to live. The door slammed behind him. I stood there, shaking, surrounded by quiet cabinets and humming appliances, feeling like the worst American mom in every emotional family drama story. I sat down at the table, put my head in my hands, and cried. Not just because he'd been harsh, because buried in his anger was a truth I didn't want to face. He wasn't being controlling because he enjoyed power. He was being controlling because he was terrified. And I didn't know how to let him love me without feeling smothered. A few days later, my friend Carol dragged me to a support group at the community center. "It's not really a support group," she said. "It's a workshop on aging and health for, women of a certain age." "A certain age?" I said. "You mean old?" She laughed. "I mean us." We sat in a circle with other women in their 50s, 60s, 70s. A social worker led the group, a calm, kind woman who used phrases like adult children and caregiver guilt and fear of mortality like she said them every day. "Today," she said, "we're talking about the moment many of us have lived through, a health scare that changes how our kids see us." The women nodded. She asked if anyone wanted to share. A woman with cropped grey hair and bright sneakers spoke first. "My son installed cameras in my house after my fall," she said. "In the living room, in the kitchen. He can watch me from his phone. I know he means well, but I feel like I'm in a reality show called Watch Mum Not Die." The group chuckled, then sighed. Another woman said, "My daughters take turns coming over to check on me. I call them the Sister Surveillance Squad. They rearranged my entire pantry without asking." Our eyes met, and we both smiled. I raised my hand. "I had a heart episode," I said. "Not a full heart attack, but scary enough. Since then, my adult kids have been on me about everything. My meds, my food, my steps. It's like they've turned into the parents." The social worker nodded. "How does that feel?" she asked. I thought about it. "Honestly," I said, "it feels like I'm being punished for not dying. Like, because I scared them. Now I have to live in a bubble to make up for it." A few women murmured agreement. "And," I added reluctantly, "it makes me want to rebel like a teenager. If they tell me not to eat something, I want to eat it. If they tell me to sit down, I want to go for a drive." The social worker smiled, not unkindly. "That makes sense," she said. "We all want autonomy, especially in our own homes. But under all that frustration, what else do you see in their behavior?" I sighed. "Fear," I said. "They're afraid I'll die, like their father did, like their patients do, like everyone eventually does." She nodded. "Exactly," she said. "For many American families, a health scare kicks up old grief and unspoken fear. Adult children suddenly realize, my parent won't be here forever. That's terrifying. So they do what humans do when we're scared. We try to control." She paused. "As parents," she continued, "we have a choice. We can respond with only anger. Stop treating me like a child. Or we can try to see the fear underneath and make space to talk about it. Not just about cholesterol, but about death itself." The room got very quiet. "We're not used to that in our culture," she said softly. "We're used to avoiding the topic. But healing family relationships around illness and mortality requires honest conversation about what we're afraid of, about what we want, about what a good goodbye would even look like someday." The phrase good goodbye made my throat tight. I raised my hand again. "How do I start that conversation?" I asked. "Every time death gets close, my kids either joke or shut down. And if I bring it up, they act like I'm cursing myself." She smiled. "Start from your own feelings," she said. not from accusation. Something like, "When you take my salt away and check my pills, I see how scared you are. I'm scared too. Can we talk about that?" She looked around the circle. "It's okay if there are tears," she added. "Tears mean the truth is close." On the drive home, I thought about that, about how this whole emotional family drama story had started with my heart, but was really about all of ours. Maybe it was time to stop pretending we were in a medical show and admit we were in a love story with a time limit. I invited them over for dinner on a Sunday. I made roasted chicken, vegetables, and brown rice, the cardiologist-approved version of the comfort meals I used to make when they were kids. Anna arrived first with the grandkids, who immediately ran through my living room like human pinballs. "Careful with Grandma," she called. "She's still recovering." "I'm not made of glass," I protested. Mark came straight from work, scrubs and all. We ate. We talked about school, work, politics, the latest streaming show everyone was obsessed with, normal American family dinner stuff. I almost chickened out. Then I remembered the social worker's words: "Start from your own feelings." After dessert, fruit and sugar-free whipped cream, thanks to my new life, I cleared my throat. "Hey," I said, "can we have a family meeting for a minute?" They both froze. "Are you okay?" Anna asked immediately. "Did the doctor call? Are your labs—" "I'm okay," I said quickly. "This isn't about new bad news. It's about how we're handling the old bad news." They glanced at each other, then back at me. "Okay," Mark said, cautiously. "What's up?" I took a breath. "When you took my salt shaker away," I began, "I was mad." Anna winced. "I know, Let me finish," I said gently. "I was mad because it felt like you were treating me like a child, like I couldn't be trusted with my own life." I saw them both flinch. "But later," I continued, "I realized something. Something I should have seen sooner." I looked at my son. "When you snapped about my medication," I said, "when you said you weren't ready to watch me die, I heard how scared you were." His eyes filled. I turned to Anna. "When you drove me home from the hospital and gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping you on the road, I saw your shoulders shaking. I heard what you couldn't quite say." She swallowed hard. "You two are controlling my diet and my pills and my schedule," I said, "because you are terrified of losing me, the way we lost your father, the way Mark loses patience, the way everyone eventually loses someone." The room was very quiet, except for the distant sound of cartoons from the other room. "I'm scared too," I said. "That's the truth. I'm scared of my body failing. I'm scared of another ambulance. I'm scared of leaving you alone in this world." A tear slid down Anna's cheek. "We didn't mean to make you feel like a child," she whispered. "I know," I replied. "And I didn't mean to turn your lives into one long safety drill when you were kids. But that's what fear does. It makes us try to control what we can't." Mark wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We can't just stop caring." "No," I said. "Please don't stop caring. I need you. I want you. I'm grateful for every ride, every reminder, every boring appointment where you sit in the waiting room scrolling your phones." I smiled. "But I also need to feel like my life still belongs to me," I added. "Not to my blood pressure. Not to my cardiologist. Not even to you. Anna took a deep breath. I don't know how to do that, she admitted. Every time I look at you, I see Dad on the living room floor. I see the ER room where they told us he was gone. I see you at his funeral trying to be strong. I can't go through that again. Her voice broke. There it was. The core. The fear we'd been dancing around for over a decade. I reached for her hand. You might have to, I said softly. Someday. That's the hardest part of this. I can't promise you I won't die. No parent can. No American life story comes with a guarantee. They both looked at me, wide-eyed. But I can promise you this, I continued. I don't want to leave you with regrets. I don't want our last years together to be one long fight about spinach and salt. I want us to learn how to talk about sickness and death and fear without losing each other before we actually lose each other. Mark let out a shaky laugh. Leave it to you, he said, to turn a heart scare into a TED talk. We all laughed through our tears. Then one by one, we started to say the things we'd never said out loud. I was 12 when Dad died, Mark said. I still remember the sound you made in the ER when the doctor shook his head. I didn't know a human could make that sound. I remember you collapsing in the hallway, Anna added. I remember thinking, if Mom dies too, what happens to us? I remember thinking I had to stay alive for you, I said. Like my life wasn't mine anymore. It was a job I couldn't quit. We sat with that for a moment. After the funeral, Anna went on, you started checking everything. Seatbelts, stoves, homework, curfews. I felt like I was always on probation. I thought I was protecting you, I said. I know, she replied. But it also made me feel like you didn't trust me. Like the world was a terrifying place, and you were the only one who knew all the rules. I turned to Mark. And you? I asked. Why did you really become a nurse? He shrugged. Control, he said simply. If I understand the human body, maybe I can stop bad things from happening. Or at least see them coming. He looked at me. Didn't work, he added with a sad smile. You still scared me. We chuckled. I don't want to be a walking trigger for your trauma, I said. But I also can't promise you I'll live forever. So maybe we need a plan. Not just for pills, but for the big stuff. They frowned. What big stuff? Anna asked. Like, what happens if this gets worse? I said. If my heart condition progresses, if I have a serious stroke, if I can't make decisions for myself, who do I want making them? What kind of care do I want? What do I not want? Those questions. They shifted uncomfortably. Do we have to talk about that now? Mark asked. We don't have to, I said. But I think we should. Not because I'm dying tomorrow, but because I'd rather answer those questions while I'm sitting here in my kitchen, in my pajamas, feeling mostly okay, than have you guess in a crisis. Anna nodded slowly. At the hospital, she admitted. When we thought you might be having a heart attack, I realized I had no idea what you'd want. Would you want everything done? Life support? No life support? Do you have a will? An advance directive? I have a very old will, I said. And no directive. Yet. Okay, she said. Let's fix that. We grabbed paper and pens. It felt strange. We were an American family used to planning birthday parties, vacations, and college applications. Now we were planning for my eventual decline and death, like it was another life event. Because it is. We made a list. Talk to a lawyer about updating my will. Fill out an advance directive and healthcare proxy. Decide who will be my primary medical decision maker if I can't speak. Talk about my preferences, resuscitation, life support, hospice. We also made another list. Things I want to do while I'm still healthy enough. Trips, memories, traditions. Conversations we want to have. About Dad, about childhood, about regrets and gratitudes. Ways they can support my health without driving me crazy. Put ask before rearranging Mom's pantry on that list, I said. They laughed. This feels morbid, Mark said, and also weirdly comforting. It feels grown up, Anna added, like we're finally saying out loud what we've all been thinking. That's what an emotional family drama story really is, I said. People finally saying the things under the things. They groaned. Mum, please don't start narrating our lives like a podcast, Mark said, but he was smiling. We cried a little. We laughed a lot. We did not finish everything on the list that night. But we started. And starting changed the air in the room. Over the next few months, life settled into a new rhythm. My blood pressure came down. My medication schedule became habit instead of a battle. I started walking with a neighbor every morning, not because my kids nagged me, but because I liked how my body felt after. Anna and Mark adjusted too. They still cared, still checked in, still sent me articles about heart-healthy recipes and how to manage stress in midlife. But they asked more questions instead of issuing commands. Hey, Mum, have you thought about trying one of those senior yoga classes? Would it help if I came with you to your cardiologist appointment? Do you want me to look at this lab result with you, or do you want to talk to your doctor first? I practiced saying what I needed. Actually, yes, I'd love a ride. Actually, no, I want to go alone this time. Actually, I don't want to talk about sodium at Thanksgiving. Can we just enjoy the meal? We still had flare-ups. Old patterns don't vanish just because you've had one healing family relationships talk in the kitchen. One afternoon, Anna caught me with a bag of potato chips. She raised an eyebrow. Before you start, I said, this is my body, my choice, and my cardiologist said occasional indulgences are okay. She paused, took a breath. Okay, she said. I was going to say, save me some. We both laughed. Mark still sometimes slipped into nurse mode and rattled off statistics that made my head spin. I started saying, do you want to talk to me as your patient or as your mum right now? It helped him reset. We went to the lawyer. We did the will. We filled out my advance directive. I wrote down what I wanted. Comfort over machines. No resuscitation if my brain is clearly gone. Lots of music. Lots of stories. Are you sure about this? Mark asked, frowning at the DNR part. I'm sure I don't want you to have to make that call without knowing what I'd say, I replied. This is me, still being your mum, still trying to protect you, just differently. He nodded, eyes wet. You're allowed to change your mind later, he said. I know, I answered. But for now, this is good. We did something else too. We started a new tradition. Once a month, we have what Anna jokingly calls death and donuts. We meet at my house on a Saturday morning. We buy good coffee and a box of fancy donuts from the bakery. We sit at the table and talk about one hard thing related to sickness, death, or aging. Sometimes it's practical. What nursing homes in this area are not nightmares? What's the difference between palliative care and hospice? Sometimes it's personal. What scares you the most about me getting older? What do you remember most from when Dad was sick? What do you want your own kids to know about death? It sounds heavy. It is. It's also strangely lightening. There is laughter. There are eye rolls. There are moments where we stop and say, okay, too much for today, and switch to talking about football. But underneath it all, there's this steady, quiet message. We are not pretending anymore. We know I will die someday. We are learning how to live well together until then. Some nights, when the house is quiet, and my medication alarm has already gone off, and my adult children are in their own homes, living their own American lives, I lie in bed and think about that day in the kitchen. The salt shaker, the fear in Anna's eyes, the anger in Mark's voice. The moment I realized my kids are afraid I'll die. If this were just an audio story for sleep, a 1-hour English audio story you put on in the background while you do dishes, that might be the end. But life goes on after the credits. I still get older. They still get busier. The world still throws new worries at us. What's different now is how we hold them. When my chest feels tight, I don't wait 3 hours and hope it goes away. I call my doctor. If it's serious, I text the group chat before I'm in an ambulance. When Anna finds a new grey hair on my head, she doesn't make a joke about you getting old and then go quiet with dread. She says, "Hey, you're still here. I'll take grey over gone any day." When Mark comes home from a rough shift, where he lost a patient who reminded him of me, he doesn't just shake it off. He calls. "Can we do a quick check-in?" he'll ask. My brain's doing that thing where it kills you off in the future. We talk. We breathe. We remind each other what's real today. Sometimes I still feel the urge to hide things from them, to spare them. I think, if I don't tell them about this symptom, they won't worry. Then I remember what hiding did when they were kids, how it made everything scarier when the truth finally came out. So I try to choose honesty, not every detail, not every ache, but enough. Enough that when my story does eventually end, it won't feel like it crashed into them out of nowhere. I used to think being a good mum meant never letting my kids see me as fragile. Now I think it might mean letting them see that I'm human and mortal, and that I trust them to handle that truth. The day I realized my kids are afraid I'll die was one of the worst days of my life. It was also the day we stopped pretending death was something that only happens to other families in other emotional family drama stories. We are an American family like any other. Messy, loving, scared, trying. I don't know how many years I have left. None of us do. But I know this. I don't want to spend them fighting about salt and secrets. I want to spend them in kitchens and living rooms and hospital waiting rooms and donut shops. Telling the truth, holding each other's fear with gentle hands, and practicing over and over the simple, steady sentence that makes all of this bearable. I love you. I'm here today. Let's not waste it.